Vincent and I absolutely cannot live side by side without trouble. As a result of the incompatibility of temperament, and both he and I need tranquility for our work. He is a man of remarkable intelligence, whom I greatly respect, and whom I leave with regret, but I repeat, it is necessary. Hi, this is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. One of the great mysteries in the art world is, why did Vincent van Gogh cut off his ear? And kind of in a way, what a bizarre thing to do is to cut off your ear, and to do the thing that he did with cutting off his ear. So it's really kind of one of these mysteries that the art world has talked about for a long time. Well, we understand what led up to his cutting off his ear was essentially he was living in the Yellow House with Paul Gauguin. And they, first got on, and then they started to not really get on. They started to have some artistic differences. They were maybe just two really different personalities, really two different types of artists that were living together in this same sort of relatively small house in southern France. And it was, on December 11th, where Paul Gauguin wrote a letter to Vincent van Gogh's brother and essentially said that he was leaving. In the letter, he said, Vincent and I absolutely cannot live side by side without trouble. As a result of the incompatibility of temperament, and both he and I need tranquility for our work. He is a man of remarkable intelligence, whom I greatly respect, and whom I leave with regret, but I repeat, it is necessary. So we know that this was happening like early November, December 1888, that, trouble was really brewing to the point where, mid-December, by the 11th of December, 1888, Paul Gauguin had written to Theo and had decided, I am absolutely positively moving. This is not working for us. I need to get out of here. In early December 23rd, in 1888, Vincent van Gogh said that he came home, he saw Paul Gauguin sleeping, and essentially suffered from an acute mental breakdown, and he took a razor and then he cut off part of his left ear. He then later that evening took part of that ear he had cut off, and he tried to give it to a prostitute at a local brothel to be able to show this is, I love you so much, here I'm giving you my ear. Well, you can imagine the commotion that this caused, in the brothel, and the police were called. So the next morning, the police came to Vincent van Gogh's house, and he found Vincent van Gogh at home in the Yellow House and forced him to be admitted into the hospital. Paul Gauguin then instantly sent a telegram to Theo, Vincent's brother. Theo hopped on the night train from Paris to Arles, France, and came immediately by Vincent's bedside. And Theo basically wrote this to his wife. He said, I found Vincent in the hospital in Arles. The people around him realized from his agitation that for the past few days he's been showing symptoms of that most dreadful disease of madness, and an attack. When he injured himself with a razor was the reason he was taken to the hospital. Will he remain insane? The doctors think it's possible, but daren't say for certain. It should be apparent in a few days' time when he is rested. Then we will see whether he is lucid again. He seemed to be all right for a few minutes when I was with him, but lapsed shortly afterwards into his brooding about philosophy and theology. It was terrible, sad being there, because from time to time all his grief would well up inside, and he would try to weep, but couldn't. Poor fighter and poor sufferer. Nothing can be done to relieve his anguish now, but it is deep and hard for him to bear. I really love that quote and thought by his brother, because it really gives us a feeling of what a huge mental breakdown this was for Vincent van Gogh. He never really told us exactly why he cut off his ear, and he probably doesn't even know himself. But we do know from this letter that his brother wrote to his wife about how really what his mental state was at this time, and that essentially he had had a very large mental breakdown. We do believe that what led up to this was the infighting between him and Paul Gauguin, but we, probably can't blame Paul Gauguin either. It was probably just two artists that were living together that were very temperamental. We do know that Vincent did ask for Paul Gauguin to come to the hospital to visit him, and he never did. In fact, he, shortly after this left and went back to Paris, and they never saw each other again, though they did write some letters back and forth, so they seem to have remained friendly throughout the years. This is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. We hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening. We truly do appreciate you and your time. And thank you to our team, specifically Rico, who helps put this together.